understandable after just these few classes.
Unless you just bought it last week.
Yeah? Well, he has a copy, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Where's your copies?
Yeah.
Okay, get them out, because
Okay.
today we're going to be hitting Volume 2. Volume 2 is where all the... and there is no real Volume 1, Volume 2. This is a Western, because we can't bind them in the same thing. So when I say Volume 2, we should just say the second half of Parashara. The second half of Parashara is primarily timing with Daśā systems. It has Ashtaka Varga, which is what we've been cutting out, and it is all about curses. And that's for you.
Oh, I have one.
Okay,
That's
and
an
what's...
extra one. Give it to Mary.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Mary, where is Mary?
She'll say. She usually says, but I haven't seen her.
Okay, so the second part of Parashara, or Volume 2, it's all about timing. And Parashara goes into all kinds of things. Let's just open up to Volume 2 real fast. Table of contents, just so we can see. And it starts with Daśā systems, results of Daśas, results of Daśas of the Lord of Houses, results, and then he goes right into Kalachakra Daśā. He puts a lot of emphasis on Vimśottarī Daśā and Kalachakra Daśā. The two main focuses of Daśas happening in Parashara. And if you open up to the next page, results of Chara Daśas, computation of Antar Daśas, and then he goes, and we'll go through all of this. So, if we look at just this first chapter here, and we just look at the table of contents, it says types of Daśas, Vimśottarī Daśas, and the spans of the Mahadaśas, and the balance and method of calculation, Astottarī Daśā, 3, Shadshottarī Daśā, Dwadashottarī Daśā, Panchattarī Daśā. All these different Daśas are all listed here. Kalachakra Daśā, description of Deha and Jiva, Navamsha of the, on and on and on. Effects of planets in Deha and Jiva signs. All this. So, the primary first, third, almost half of this is all about Daśas. And we're not going to cover all the Daśas, because that's a year study in and of itself. We're going to particularly study one called Vimśottarī Daśā. Who knows what Vimśottarī means?
120?
120. So what Vimśottarī is, it's the 120-year cycle. And if you see, that's the first one Parashara gives. Now the concept of Vimśottarī is Vimśottarī Daśā. It's good for everything. It's a very generalized Daśā.
Did everybody get timing?
This is
What's the difference?
This is Mark. You need it.
There's two of them.
Oh, there are two of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that means.
I wanted to do the first section last week if we had time. That way we'd have more time to actually utilize this today. But you know how the nighttime rolls around. And,
He
So-
probably just gets away.
You wouldn't want to do it Daśā.
so now there's, you could say there's two primary Daśas. One is Graha Daśas, Daśas based on planets, and one is Rashi Daśas. Daśas based on signs. Daśā means time cycle. So you can be in a Venus period, then move into a sun period, then move into a moon period, or you can be in a Taurus period, moving into an Aries period. So we can have timings based on signs, timings based on planets. That's one division. Then there's a division of what we're calculating from. Whether we're calculating from the Lagna for sign Daśas. Are you calculating from the Lagna, or are you calculating from the ninth house? Or the ninth house is going to show spiritual type Daśas. Or are you going to calculate from the eighth house? So there's different types of timing based on sign Daśas. Then there's, of the Graha Daśas, we can also start by the strongest planet in Kendras, to the Lagna. Those are called Kendradi Daśas. Vimśottarī and the whole Vimśottarī has a whole bunch of other dashas that go along with it, that are subdivisions and variations of Vimśottarī, are called Udu Dashas. And Udu Dasha means that they're calculated based on the moon's nakshatra. Okay? Which is very important. And what did we learn about the nakshatras last week? What do you think that, if it's from the ninth, a dasha calculated from the ninth house shows spirituality. A dasha calculated from the lagna shows situations that are happening in our life. What's a dasha that's calculated from the moon's nakshatra going to be revealing to us?
Mind.
By your experience, receiving
Huh?
Temperament?
Temperament? Experience?
perception.
Perception?
It's about your mind, though, how you're experiencing it, and your mind's experiencing it.
More internal than the Vimśottarī.
More?
Internal than objective.
Vimśottarī is calculated from the moon's nakshatra primarily.
Okay.
So,
So you said Vimśottarī is more the event.
it's an Udu Dasha.
Oh, okay.
It's calculated from the moon's nakshatra.
Okay, so the Vimśottarī then would be more how you perceive, how you're experiencing.
But how you're experiencing life, can you experience life and life be totally different than how you're
Yes.
experiencing it?
Absolutely.
Not for
Totally different?
yourself, but from
No,
others.
not really.
No, but
I mean, if there's a car accident, if you are suffering from having a car accident mentally, can you not have a car accident?
that's true. Yes.
So if you're mentally suffering from a car accident, there has to have been a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
So it's primarily showing us the mental experience of reality, but that mental experience of reality is physically happening.
Unless you're delusional.
Unless you're delusional.
I mean,
In general, Rashi Dashas show us situational happenings. They're more situation based. Do you have money? Do you not have money? Are you at home? Are you abroad? They're primarily based on situation. Do you have a spiritual teacher there, or is there not a spiritual teacher there? But the thing is, if there's a spiritual teacher there, you're still going to be having the experience of a spiritual teacher. If you're abroad, you're still going to be having the experience of being abroad. But what's triggering it? It's the external environment is triggering the event. Where from the nakshatra dashas, we have an experience of reality. It's more mental based, but at the same time, that event is actually happening in order for the mind to experience it. So our first go through at this is going to be to actually calculate Vimśottarī Daśā ourselves. You flip to the next page, calculation of Vimśottarī Daśā.
so would you say Vimśottarī is an Udu?
It is an Udu Dasha.
Udu? Udu?
Udu.
Udu. Uda?
Guruji has this book, Vimśottarī and Udu Dashas.
What's an U? Udu. Okay.
That's
Mhm.
a really good
I
book.
think I have that book. I
And
read
this
it, though. I know what it was. Okay.
and and this book is all about Vimśottarī Daśā and the sub dashas related to Udu Dashas. Now these are all calculated primarily based on the moon's nakshatra.
Okay.
Sometimes it's the lagna nakshatra, but that's for more health related things, or there's reasons that we do different calculations, but primarily it's moon nakshatra based. Now they're all Udu Dashas, but the other Udu Dashas are called specialty dashas, meaning Vimśottarī is good for everybody. But then there are special cases where, for example, let's say the sun is in the ascendant. It shows a very powerful person. So there's a special dasha just for that. Let's say that the seventh lord is in the ascendant. There's a special dasha just for that. So the other dashas besides Vimśottarī are called special exception dashas. They're variations. So we still use this one. This one is general and shows us the general overall. But then when there's a certain situation happening with the person, we use the special dashas to see about that special situation. Okay? But let's focus on Vimśottarī for the moment. So calculation of Vimśottarī. It's page 2. And to be able to calculate the dasha, it's very important to understand how these cycles are working. Some people, they just use the computer, they calculate how it works, and they calculate it and they just start interpreting, not understanding where these planets are coming from, how long they're really lasting, the whole internal working of the dasha. By calculating it by hand, we're going to understand it. So I'm going to go through quickly and explain, and then you're going to go and you're going to calculate your own Vimśottarī Daśā. Sounds like fun, right?
Can't wait.
So the example is my chart. Now I have the number 1 is to find the exact location of the native's moon at birth. We're going to primarily skip most of this and just look at the degree of the moon in your birth chart. But when I first started doing Jyotish, laptops were rare things. And so I calculated my first few hundred charts. I calculated the Vimśottarī Daśā by hand. And I calculated the whole chart by hand, actually. And so this right here just talks about the first thing you do when you want to know about the moon is you go to an ephemeris. You find where the moon was on that day. Then you calculate what time the person was born, and you see how much did the moon move to that time of the day. And then you take that time. That's the first thing that you need to do. Right now we'll just use the computers. If we had all day, we could do that. But
How long did it take you to do one whole chart? The dashas and everything?
you once you
At
get
first.
good,
Hours?
a long time. But after a while, you get good. And you just you go through it pretty fast. So it kind of gets rote. Yeah.
For the system there.
But so in the example here, we're going to use moon at 1348 Aries for a native born October 9th, 1976. Anybody know who that is? And so what we do here for the native born for 1348 Aries, that right there falls in Bharani Nakshatra, whose Vimśottarī Lord is Venus. Where's our chart? If we flip over to page 5, table 1, it says Nakshatra Daśā, Nakshatra and Daśā period. If we go down, we can even just in the first 2 columns, you can find 1348 Aries. And that's going to take you into Bharani Nakshatra. Can you calculate that from the chart?
Oh, so you're at the beginning of Barney.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you can see that Bharani Nakshatra goes to 2640. And it's ruled by Venus. That's Vimśottarī Lord.
So you're 28 degrees into Barney.
That's the first.
28 minutes.
Just see if we can all find this on the chart. Everybody can find that, right? Now our next thing, because Bharani ends at 2640, right? So if you look at step number 3, we take 2640 and we subtract 1348 from it.
26,
Now, the important thing about doing the math here, if you look, if we want to subtract the 48 seconds from 40, there's 60 seconds in a degree. So if you look at the correlation, 2640 becomes 25/100. Okay? Because we carry 60 over
in order to subtract the 48.
in order to subtract the 48. Everybody following that? That's a very important thing to mathematically know and understand. And we get 12 degrees and 52 seconds for the moon to still go through Bharani. Everybody has that from number 3, right?
Yeah, I'm totally lost here.
You can see step 3, right?
There it is. Okay.
the end of Barney is 2640.
Mm-hmm.
And the moon is 1348.
Mm-hmm.
So we subtract that.
Right.
And in order to subtract that, we have to carry 1 second, 1 minute over, 1 degree over
1 degree, which means.
into the minutes, which is 60.
Oh, to give you enough to subtract, so you took 1
Mhm.
degree from 26, it turned it into 25.
Because 60 minutes is
So
1
you have
degree.
60 minutes.
So we don't carry over 10, we don't carry over 100, we carry over 60.
So you carry it over to 100 minutes, so you can subtract it.
So it's 60 plus 40 is 100. Okay?
Okay, I'm with you.
And so we have 1252 left to go through that sign. Now if we go over to table 2 and 3. These are the magic tables. First 2, then we go to 3. So we see it's 12 degrees, right? 1252. So on this one, Barney is ruled by Venus, right?
Right.
So we go to the Venus column and we go down to 12. And that becomes 18 years, 0 months, 0 days.
Yeah, how'd you get that?
In table 2,
Oh.
because it's in Barney, which is ruled by Venus.
Okay.
Then there's the degrees on the side, so it's 1 to 13.
Oh, I see, 12
Oh,
degrees.
okay.
Degrees on this, okay. So you have 18.
And so that's
Years.
18 years. So for 12 degrees in Venus Daśā, that's 18 years, 0 months, 0 days.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah.
Now, it's 52 minutes left, right?
Yes, so you have to.
So we go to table 3,
Oh, which is in minutes.
Oh.
Okay.
and there we find 52, which is on actually page 7.
Oh my God.
It's table 3b. And 52 in Venus Daśā is 1 year,
Oh,
3 months,
and
18 days.
1 year, 3 months.
So that's what's left.
So
That's
it's
what's
not
left of
Daśā.
the Daśā to experience
Okay, so that's
At the time of birth.
at the time of birth. Because you're born into the middle of the Daśā. You're not born, you don't start it from the beginning.
Right.
so that means it's a total of 19 years, 3 months, and 18 days.
Exactly, you add them up together.
Okay.
So that's what at the table on the top of page 3 is.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's 19 years, 3 months, and 18 days of Venus Mahadasha to be experienced.
You really must, did you experience your curse then up till 19 years old?
I was very angry when I was young.
Uh-huh.
And this
Oh,
is,
because Venus was given the results of Mars.
Yeah.
yeah, Venus and Venus Rahu, it's the whole afflicted cursed Venus
Yeah.
happening. So
Up till 19 years old, huh?
okay, so then number 5,
I don't know.
we take the year, so which is 1976. We take the month, which is 10, and we take the day, which is 9, and we add on the amount of Venus Daśā left, and we get 1995, the 13 months and 27 days. Do you know what the 13th month is?
January?
There's no 13th
Oh, no,
month.
from
The next year.
So we subtract 12 from there, and we add 1 to the year.
Right.
Okay?
Oh,
Next
okay.
year.
Yeah. So it adds. So it becomes 1996, January 27th.
Oh, it's good January.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But we got to understand, the subtraction and the addition of these 12 months in a year, 30 days in a month. That becomes very important when adding these together. And actually, and no matter how much you know that, I promise you that'll be one of the biggest mistakes made. You just forget to subtract that 12 from the 13, and then just all of a sudden things aren't adding up right. Okay.
Unless you use it here.
Say again?
Unless you use it here.
So
No.
your Venus Daśā ended January 27th, 1996.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so if we go to number 6 here, so that means that's the Daśā following Venus. If we go back to table 1, after Barney Nakshatra comes Kritika Nakshatra. Kritika Nakshatra is ruled by the sun. So that means the following dasha is going to be ruled by the sun. Sun, if you look at the years in that column, those are the complete years of the dashas.
6 years.
So sun rules 6 years. So that means we go and from that date we add 6. So if you look at number 6, it's January 27th, 1996 plus 6 years. And that takes us to Moon Mahadasha, because Moon is the Vimśottarī Lord of Rohini, which is the next nakshatra.
That's where you are now.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, which is 10 years. So does everybody see how that works? It's pretty simple. So why don't we all calculate our Mahadashas? And once we're done calculating the Mahadashas, we will start calculating our second level dashas, our Antar dashas. Antar means inside. So the Antar dasha is the dasha inside the Mahadasha, the main dasha. Which basically Uttar Falguni ends at 10 degrees of Virgo.
Okay. So I'm.
And you're at what degree?
347.
347 of
So I
Virgo.
subtract that from 10.
From 10, and how do we do that? It's not actually 10. It's actually 960, right?
960.
Because we got to create some minutes there.
Okay.
So we subtract 1 minute and turn it into seconds. So it turns into 60 seconds.
Okay.
So 10 degrees is the same as 9 degrees and 60 seconds.
So really, what I have left is 513.
Okay.
So then I go to
The charts.
table 2.
Yeah.
And I get 5. But then how do I know which, I have 5, but then I don't know which planet.
Okay, so we go back to that first chart, table 1,
Uh-huh.
and we see Uttar Falguni,
Oh, sun. Okay.
Sun. So that's your column. You were born in Sun Mahadasha.
So do months have a standard length?
Do,
Months have a standard length?
when you say months, what do you
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
30 days.
30 days.
That's just your general.
I think I got it.
I think I figured mine out too, but
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I guess I didn't have to adjust the minutes, so.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you do. How do you do?
I did it.
Easy enough, right?
Yeah, I think I did it. What about seconds? You just
Seconds you round, you can round. If you want to, you can do there's ways to fine tune and integrate them, but we're not going to get to that detail level.
just yet.
Yeah. Sanjay, my guru's grandfather, used to get the Vimśottarī. He used to rectify the time to 2 seconds.
Wow. So can you check?
At that level, the degrees become the seconds become very important. Until you get to that, then it's not going to be. Yes.
Are you going to check us to see if we did it right?
You should be able to check by which dasha, when you're changing dashas. It should correlate to your chart
Yeah.
in a minute.
So we should add in the next dashas too.
And so if you look at, most of you have how many degrees are left. Go over to do number 4, find out how many years, months, and days is left in the dasha, and then add it to your birth time, which is number 5. Getting that next part, Mina?
No, I mean, I know that this is correct because I know that I know that I did, that the Mahadash is correct, but after that, I'm kind of confused with what to do.
Okay. So what's your time? Degrees and minutes
Of what?
that you have left in that nakshatra?
In the first one?
Yeah.
oh gosh,
960 minus 3 something was.
yeah, it's 5.13.
Okay, and so did you go to table 2 and look up 5
And
in
that's-
Sun Dasha?
And that's the 2 years.
2 years, 3 months, 0 days. Okay, you wrote that down?
Yeah.
And how many seconds is left in the Dasha? How many minutes?
13.13. I don't know.
No. What was the first thing that you had left? Your first the first it was 5 what?
5.13.
5.13. And so we go over to table 3 and we look up 13
Oh, okay.
in Sun Dasha.
13 is.
And that comes to 1 month and 5 days. Now add that together. Add those two together, time wise.
So 2 months, 2 years, and 1 month, 5 days. That means 2 months, or 2 years, 4 months.
Now write your birthday down in that same order. Year, month, day.
Okay.
And add that amount of time to your birthday
Okay.
and see what you come up with. That's when Sun Dasha ends and Moon Dasha starts. If all the math was done correctly.
Still the beginning.
Okay.
When was it?
I'm going to see if I can get her to do it right, and then we'll get her to help you.
Okay.
So the next one after Mercury then is Ketu.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, you're just adding whole years with no months.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I
was
think
born
I
into Mercury.
okay.
Nice.
So basically, the first
Alright, what's the degree of your moon again? Because we have the same moon, right? You're both born into that.
Mine was
tracking.
2659.
Oh, mine's 2648, so our Dasha's are really aligned.
Different years.
But still our Dasha's will be the same.
Your age, they change the same. But you're different ages, so.
Yeah, I was going to say that should be quite different.
In present time.
Yeah, I don't. Freedom. So she has 12 degrees, 12.11 in Rohini, right? But what should she be subtracting from? Should she be subtracting from 2320?
So we have Rohini.
Mm-hmm.
And what was her moon again?
1211.
1211. So yeah, from 20 through 20.
Okay.
Where does it say how long?
It says.
In table 1.
And
On the
she's
very
got
end,
some
it says how long the years
20
are.
Because it's close to 13. Is that?
Say again?
Why is she subtracting from 2320 and not 10?
Because it's 10 to 2320.
Okay.
You subtract from the end of the dasha, not the beginning of the dasha.
Okay.
Always?
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Always the end. You want to know how much is left.
But I then subtracted, because I had 3 degrees 47, I subtracted from 10. Why then? Because
Yeah, but a different dasha. You're Mrigashira.
No.
You're what? You're Uttar Falguni,
Yeah.
which is 0, which is
Like I thought that I was supposed to subtract that from 40, but
2640 to 10 degrees of. It's 2640 of Leo to 10 degrees of Virgo.
okay. Oh.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Pretty sure it's 10
You got to look on both sides. One is the degree
Taurus.
of the sign. One is the degree of the nakshatras.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes you use one, sometimes you use the other, depending.
Okay. Alright. Okay, so yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now
Yeah.
we get
Okay, I forgot that, that's my mistake.
Oh.
So it's 2 months off and I couldn't figure out why.
I think I don't know what I mean, I know what I did, I just, how to explain it. It says 37:30.
Yeah, 3 times 3 days.
37:30. And then, in the chart, no?
2237.
Oh, Thank you. So now I'll be further
And that other number you have to, the seconds you either round up or round down, whether it's over 30 or under 30. You got it? Spend your 2 months off?
I got my now I'm 3 days off. And that must be the second.
Yeah. Seconds
Yeah.
didn't really change a
Yeah.
day or two.
I can see why you need to do this a bunch.
Huh?
I mean, if you follow the steps, yeah, but to do it a bunch to
My
get it,
math came out wrong.
because there's so many different, yeah.
Okay, so,
I can look at someone's moon and try and basically kind of almost mentally understand what dasha they're in based on what's happening in their life, just by knowing where their moon sign was and how old they are.
And also you know what they've been through,
Yeah.
you know?
So which one are you in now, Mike?
moon.
Like,
You calculate your mahadashas too? All of them?
oh, no. Well, you can figure that out, right? You just add next to draw.
Get them all down. Get them all down. Just like step number. Get step number 6 done. Because then we're gonna do number 7.
So her degree balance minutes by arc is .09, so where would she go
This
to?
doesn't, this doesn't correspond.
Math makes me want to eat.
So here, yeah.
It's grounding because we're like all up here, and so food.
Where's B, where's,
So it's 11.
Stuff.
So we use 11 there.
yeah, and then right, so we know
Orange?
the,
My
so
life
it's
is on.
whatever.
Where'd these come from again, mandala?
A while ago, like, it's weird how there's like this delay.
Oh, you go to
Yeah.
9.
Yeah.
Because it seems
Too much.
09 is 9.
lighter.
1
I mean,
month
what?
is 15, or
A couple
1
weeks
month
ago.
and 20 days.
No, not a couple.
And then add
You just
that,
knew that.
1 month, 20 days, 8 years.
Yeah, what is this delay thing?
To your birthday, and then that's the.
You get it, Gail?
the time that
No
you
problem?
get out of.
The only part is trying to do the Antardasha. No.
Oh, you're jumping ahead onto the Antardasha?
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to do the remainder left and how to do the math. I mean, I can look and see I'm within this range, but I can't calculate exactly how to do it.
What do you mean?
I know that I have, in this dasha I've experienced 15 years, 0 months and 26 days left, or I experienced that much of the Saturn dasha.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 3 years, 11 months and 4 days left in the dasha to experience. So to go in and find the balance of the dasha left,
Okay.
I know it's not, I can go and look
Yeah, this
in
is
Saturn
your moon.
here.
No. That's Antardasha.
That's like,
Oh, this is her Antardasha?
Yeah.
1 month, 20 days.
We take
Nine.
yeah.
the degree in this chart
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and the second in these 2 charts.
Right.
So how many did you have left, degree-wise?
Do you ready to have,
I worked out.
Well, I used to by day. How much
13
time I have left?
Jupiter, which is before
Yeah,
I
also-
had
So you've been in
years.
I mean,
2000? Yeah, also check. Oh,
For
is it?
subtracting
Oh, is
period
it?
of 1014, is that the...
10 degrees
So
over
you're
minutes
set,
is,
so.
wait, that's the beginning, I'm sorry.
But
So I
you're-
figured out, I
But
figured
you're
out the
in
start of the
May.
dasha, how much I had left, that's fine. I'm now in Saturn dasha. So I was trying to figure out how much
Do you want me to help?
time I had left in the Saturn.
You've been in moon since
That's
2000.
17, right? That number of years.
Do you want to write it on this piece of paper?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Sure.
And then this is how much time I had
Well,
left.
relatively.
So,
Relatively.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're
yeah,
good.
24 years,
Was I going
You're on
too
the
far?
other side.
No, it's just, I mean...
1711, so.
I just started sun last year, so.
So I go to Aquarius.
Did you get an appointment with
No,
Hmm?
Nadia to do the
So you
Vedanta
get 20.
remedy pujas?
Mm-mm.
We haven't talked to him yet.
No.
To
I'd like to know when it's
1960.
coming.
Just wondering.
Yeah. I'd like to
So
know.
we've got.
Sorry.
Yeah, the 1 month now, moving on days.
Okay. So.
Okay.
You got 15? 240.
If you're still working on that, work on that.
Why?
Those who finished, number 7,
10 minus 1.
take a look.
Oh, right. Okay, and so then you go to the second table, and then, okay, where?
So generally,
where is it?
how it is here is how it's written. You take that dasha
That makes sense.
and you
Considering death.
graph it out to the side,
Oh, okay.
okay? And you write, if it's moon dasha, you write when you entered moon dasha at the top. And then we go to table table 5, which is broken into 2 parts.
And then the 49.
And because this is moon dasha, I go to moon,
So you go to
and it breaks down moon, moon, moon Mars, moon Rahu, moon Jupiter, moon Saturn.
Is it table 4?
Table 4?
Table 4.
1 year, 1
So,
month.
can you say what you said again? Because I was.
1 year, 1 month, and
Number
7
7,
days.
right.
These guys are still working on the first level
I didn't
dasha.
get what you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Days,
So
9 months.
let's go to the example on number 7.
That's interesting. You were wrong.
If you look, moon dasha started at 2002, January 27th, right? So I go and I take a new column and I write that at the top. Okay? Now that's moon dasha. I go to chart number 4.
For you,
This is for everybody.
July 24. I came up with different time.
Well, yeah, we're just looking
Yeah, we're looking at the example. Okay. That's the example time. But if we go over to moon dasha here, moon moon is 0 years, 10 months, 0 days. Okay? Now, so you add that over there, and that's your moon moon dasha.
Look under
So the
table
moon,
4
so
where it
the
says
double
Venus
period is
Hasta
10 months long.
Shravana.
Oh,
Yeah.
It says moon under the
For moon
10
moon.
years.
Moon, moon, okay, 0, 10, 0, okay.
So
For-
where did you write that?
Then we go moon Mars, and if you go to Mars over here, it's 0 years, 7 months, 0 days.
16 months
And we add that on,
Oh, yeah.
So,
and that's how long moon Mars is.
and a year.
Should we do that just with our present period, like we did?
On table 4, you'll see it says that
16 months.
the planets are kind of the middle layer there. It's K2, Venus, Sun, Moon.
Your birthday is
Okay, so it's the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 4th column over is moon. Right?
Yeah, I got that far.
Okay, the dashas are always in the same order.
Right, okay.
It's always Sun, Moon, Mars, in this way. Rahu, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, K2, Venus.
Okay.
It's always that order. So if you look in that column, you see Moon, 0 years, 10 months, 0 days, right? And you see Mars, 0, 7, 0.
So that's
No. Oh, yeah, okay, in the same column.
Okay, same column. You're going down.
Okay.
And so basically that downward column, that's what you're calculating as your Antar dashas in Moon dasha. But you're adding that amount of time to whatever the date you started the Moon dasha is. Or, but take the dasha that you're in right now
Yeah.
and break that particular dasha down.
Well, so what table, what page is that table on?
That's table 4.
So,
I should do, I was right for my sun dasha, but I think, I guess I should do it for now. So then,
okay, so the moon.
I just, it goes, I'm
So for me,
so confused, 'cause
1973.
basically,
I see.
like, I just go the date that I entered this in, and then,
March.
I know, cause I was just doing the,
You see how that date right there is the date entered for the Moon?
okay, yeah.
Oh,
First we did right here with just the big dates. And this is the same thing right there.
But just divide it up, yeah.
No, I just didn't write here. It's written out what they all are on the side. I removed what's written all on the side and wrote this graph in here. And then I'm breaking down moons. So that's when moon started. Moon moon is that long. Moon Mars is that long. And I just add down. Now at the end of the Antar dasha, the last Antar dasha should be the date of the next Mahadasha. So if you add it right, they should correlate. When you don't add right, they don't correlate.
And here are the basically the periods that
So
I,
for K2, this is K2 K2, K2 Venus,
okay.
K2 Sun, K2 Moon, K2 Mars.
And that's in here, I'm in Rahu now, so.
You're in Rahu, so that's Rahu Rahu, Rahu Jupiter, Rahu Saturn, Rahu
What's the
Mercury.
next dasha?
Alright, cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Following?
I can ask her.
When did they carry over the days? Did they carry it over at 30,
Why is my
31
nap
days?
lost? I
30.
got one.
30 days?
And I go to Saturn. Oh, that's my Saturn. 1973. That goes to the next dasha.
Year 6, 7.
Are we basically doing the same step over and over that we just did to calculate each?
But you're doing smaller dashas now. It's the same, mathematically it's the same. Your technique is the same, but you're just dividing smaller.
Okay.
And we can even take the Antar Dasha and divide that even smaller. If we wanted to.
Maybe later.
But these are the charts that I used to do by hand.
Oh, isn't this?
And you can see how it's broken down just like that there. Right? These are the charts I used to do before I had a computer. See how it's all broken down right there at the bottom of the chart? These days it's on the computer screen. But that's only the last few decades have you had a computer screen.
So did we write our
Every chart I would do that.
That's what this is?
What's, go to the, what
Is
period?
that the name of Moonfire? Who has a name like Moonfire?
My friends.
Some hippie.
Now we just.
Some hippie,
Yeah.
some hippie kids
Oh, I
of
know.
hippie parents.
Some,
Alright,
yeah.
now
Look at
it's
this one,
Saturn.
Sunshine.
So these are the-
Jennifer White Wave.
What's another wave?
White Wave.
The
White
same,
Wave.
She's a surfer.
the same kind of people would be naming freedom.
Did your
We are
mom
March
name you Freedom?
29th, I guess, that's what we do.
That's an old
So-
one right there.
You named yourself Freedom.
I was given the name.
So go
Yeah, good
to
name.
this,
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just, you know, this just has to be calculated by hand.
It doesn't have to be calculated by hand.
No. You should be able to calculate it by hand.
If your computer goes down,
like 2 years.
you gotta do
8
that
years,
Oh,
project.
right there. You can see there's all kinds of. I had to calculate.
And that's what the next.
This is a point where the person didn't know whether they were born, which hour they were born.
So you
It was either 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. So I had to calculate at 3 o'clock, I had to calculate at 4 o'clock, and use that to correct it, to see which dasha was better, working better.
You did this in India?
All these are from all over.
This is a sign box.
So